Program Director, board members of PURCO SA, the CEO of PURCO SA, Mr. Govender, PURCO leadership present here and staff, the conference presenters, conference participants, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to warmly greet you at this opening session of the 2024 PURCO Conference program. Let me thank the PURCO leadership, the Eastern Cape Conference organizers for inviting me to deliver a keynote address this morning. I will start by introducing our organization, which is Universities South Africa. We are a representative body of the 26 public universities in South Africa. Most people call me a vice chancellor of vice chancellors. And I always correct them. The vice chancellors are my bosses. They constitute the board of Universities South Africa. We're a non-profit organization and a thought leader. We provide comment, advice on national legislation. We advocate for universities through coordinating responses to common priorities and intervene to overcome challenges. A number of you would have seen me on TV each time there are either problems or we have to support structures such as NSFAS and a variety of others, whether it's in relation to parliament or in relation to government, where universities come collaboratively to say whatever views or whatever contributions they would like to make on a particular issue. We facilitate collaboration by providing platforms for universities to debate common challenges and share best practice with various stakeholder groups. We offer a vital platform where all the 26 public universities can converge, engage on everyday issues, collaborate for the common good and advancement of higher education across the board. Through this role, we seek to strengthen South Africa's universities and demonstrate their value. If you go to our website, you will find out that we flight information which seeks to promote our universities. The way in which we operate is twofold. We have what we call communities of practice and also strategic groups. The communities of practice are fora that are constituted by specialist professionals from common portfolios of the university's administration. They are established by a set of terms of reference, and they convene nationally to network, to share best practice, knowledge and information to advance their respective and associated segment of the higher education system. They seek to foster collaboration among universities on national initiatives to support one another by discussing common concerns and devising collective solutions for specific problems. And they assist us a lot in understanding the trends and also staying abreast with the reality of the various communities of practice. And they make recommendations to the strategic groups, which report to the board, and each strategic group is headed by a vice chancellor. So examples of communities of practice that we have, for instance, we have the HR forum, we have a finance executives forum, we have groupings such as the community of practice in the teaching of mathematics, community of practice in advancement of African languages. So it's a variety of groupings of professionals where they come together to advance their areas of focus. Similar to the communities of practice, the strategy groups are established through their respective terms of reference to advance the identified priority areas set for a specified period and pertinent to the advancement of higher education in South Africa. Each group, as I mentioned, is chaired by a vice-chancellor, and they report to the board, and we have 6 of them. There's the funding strategy group, there's the leadership and management strategy group, there's the research and innovation strategy group, the teaching and learning strategy group, the transformation strategy group, and the world of work strategy group. The work of PURCO falls directly under the funding strategy group, and we have had discussions in this regard with PURCO. So in addition to the communities of practice and strategy groups, USAF has 2 flagship programs. One is the Higher Education Leadership and Management Program, which we call HELM, and practically advances the leadership within higher education institutions, and that is for both academic and support staff, administrative staff as well. So we offer a number of programs, qualifications, which advance the leadership of higher education institutions. And then we have the Entrepreneurship Development in Higher Education program, and among others, here we advance what we call an entrepreneurial university, which focuses a lot on business development aspects of the university. So that is among the areas that we drive through the AD program. Both these flagship programs are funded by the Department of Higher Education and Training, but we do leverage a lot of resources from the private sector and the philanthropic organizations. We all know PURCO. It's a purchasing consortium of higher educational sector in Southern Africa. Its members include all South African and Namibian public universities and their allied institutions, TVET colleges and private higher education institutions. PURCO focuses on providing maximum benefit for its members through collaborative procurement and professional support. Just like higher health, PURCO was once part of Universities South Africa, but has since been spun out as a self-sustaining organization which brings not only value, but profits for its members. So the global trends which affect universities have been mentioned here by Professor Mabizela and Mr. Govender, and they include reduction in public funding, the increased cost of providing higher education, and the growth in the number of private higher education institutions. In our case, that serves as an advantage because of the capacity that we have within higher education public higher education institutions. The growth in private higher education institutions is a benefit to our system, unlike where we see it as competition. There's more student and academic mobility, while technological innovations are changing the way people learn and expect to access education. So the key national contextual issues relate to South Africa's challenging economic situation and its impact on universities, on students, and research opportunities and graduate employment. It is crucial that gatherings such as these assess the difficulties and opportunities that this context provides to the higher education sector. These challenges have necessitated an introspection of how universities use their funds. I will hone in on the area of procurement, of access to scholarly information and communication, which has been a major expense for universities. Previously, universities paid subscription fees to major publications and digital companies globally until a decision to have shared subscriptions was made in South Africa. The South African National Library and Information Consortium, which we call SANLIC, which is a not-for-profit member organization, was the natural home for these shared subscriptions. The organization harnesses the collective purchasing power of member institutions in order to optimize expenditure on scholarly information and communication. As USAF, we have fully supported SANLIC each time they had to negotiate with key publishers and digital companies by providing them with endorsement letters. In these endorsement letters, we spelled out that SANLIC has been mandated to negotiate the prices on our behalf. We further clarify that there will be a single multi-year agreement with the publisher and will not be paying any subscriptions until that agreement has been reached. Meanwhile, we are encouraging universities to go on the open access route. By open access, I mean free access to information and unrestricted use of electronic resources for all. As a small system such as ours, it is crucial that we are part of the international community in driving this open access agenda. In addition to getting our universities plugged in, USAF is driving an operational plan which would ensure that we drive the programs and the projects which will get us there to this open access that we are all awaiting and wishing for and driving. So I've just mentioned an example of where universities have come together to collaborate, to ensure that we reduce the costs which pertain to the services provided to universities. That SANLIC is one example. Recently, I've been approached by universities reporting their concern about a software company that has suddenly raised prices. The company calls this a price correction for services which were very low for a long time. As much as 13 universities are impacted by the price increase, which is as much as double in some cases, or 3 times the original prices in some cases. There are a number of options that universities require, including a break of about 3 years so that they can decide on whether to go ahead with this service provider or not. As we are entering the negotiating table with the organization is signing multi-year agreements with individual universities. Meanwhile, universities are complaining that they co-developed the main software that has to be sold to them by the company. Very similar to publishing processes above, where researchers produce the knowledge, conduct the peer review of journals, and publishers sell access to them at exorbitant costs, making huge profits in the process. So my question to you today is, what should happen now? Perhaps universities were caught off guard previously, we see that this is going to be the trend. Now, if we find ourselves in this position where the private sector can do anything and raise prices as they wish, with the understanding that we have no say, we have no way of dealing with the issues. This is what our funding strategy group of Universities South Africa is proposing. For a long time, they've been advocating for shared services among universities in South Africa. It's not a new concept. It exists locally and globally. In South Africa, examples include the TERNET, which is for collaborative internet working, the SUNLIC, which I've just mentioned. In Australia, Queensland University Directors of Information Technology allow universities in Queensland to share IT services, including network infrastructure, software, and IT support services. They also facilitate joint projects in areas such as cybersecurity, data management, digital learning environments. Australian universities have implemented shared services, administrative services, such as HR, finance, student services, often through centralized hubs that serve multiple institutions. Similar trends have been observed in the United States of America, the United Kingdom, Netherlands, India, New Zealand. Clarity of concept and areas that need prioritizing are essential in this area. I have approached PURCO to say, this is what we require. Let's think through this. What would be the key services that require us to think about sharing as the universities in South Africa be? And how would we go about doing so? The other aspect is that we have been losing a lot of money from government due to the delays in infrastructure provision. I convened the Deputy Vice Chancellor, who's an engineer by profession, and whose institution was instrumental in providing capacity within the higher education sector, together with PURCO and the professionals in the Higher Education Facility Management Association. The key question is, how do we share best practice among universities such that we all develop the necessary capacity to manage huge infrastructure projects without wasting money, without wasting time? Their observation was that there are institutions with this capacity, and it all boils down to clarity of processes, clarity of procedures, and having internal capacity to manage the projects. In my view, what works should be shared, and hand-holding may be essential for some of the institutions. And we have noted this. We've lost a lot of money through the Sibusiso Bengu funding, which funds the historically disadvantaged universities. When it comes to infrastructure provision, this money always goes back to National Treasury. And this is our reality. We need to find ways of curbing this kind of loss because we need the infrastructure, and it has to be delivered on time and have the necessary quality that we require. We cannot afford to have funding dedicated to infrastructure development reprioritized because of our lack of capacity to spend. The other aspect which has been raised is this one of development within universities, business development within universities. There are universities which have started to work on this, and they would like to share their expertise. So the non-core business of universities, we're talking about areas such as residences, provision of accommodation there. Some universities started a long time ago to provide that accommodation for conferences when students are not there. Use it for arts festival in areas such as Grahamstown, for holidays in areas such as Cape Town, and so on. Short courses are a big source of funding for universities. And areas such as student union at universities, getting businesses to rent the space in the very same way that they would in a mall, and a variety of other business development programs, conferencing and so on. There are universities which have started to commercialize the services of the universities, and they are showing to be self-sustaining, whereas previously they were drawing and taking up funding from universities for them to be properly run. So these are the lessons that we have to learn, and when necessary, collaborate to provide certain services. And in my view, PURCO, together with its members, are well placed to pioneer this kind of the models which would work, universities work much more sustainable rather than draining funding unnecessarily sometimes. I would like to finish by saying universities in their nature are transformative, and they are a key tool for social mobility in a country which is fraught with inequality. Therefore, they are an instrument for advancing equality and social inclusion, not only for their graduates, but for society in general. Their key mandate being socially responsive. And the sustainability of higher education sector is key in advancing the socio-economic development of our country. I thank you for your attention.